My sister ruined my wedding. On my wedding day, my sister Olivia poured oil paint all over my dress. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a prank. It was her final act of cruelty, one that would backfire in ways she could never have imagined. My name is Nikita, and if you've ever had a family member sabotage your happiness, you'll understand why what happened next changed everything. But tell me, if your own sister destroyed your wedding dress, would you forgive her or cut her out forever? Comment below, because I still ask myself that question. To understand Olivia, you have to understand my family's language. Love wasn't spoken. It was given in heirlooms. My grandmother's china, my father's watch, my mother's pearls. They were tokens of favoritism, rewards for whoever shined the brightest. And Olivia always showed she was the actress, the star, the drama queen. I was the quiet one, a landscape designer, my hands in dirt, my life steady and slow. So when we ended up with weddings scheduled in the same month, I moved mine back a week. I thought it was a peace offering, but in my family, kindness was never peace. It was weakness. My mum twisted it immediately. A bold move, Nikita, very bold, she said, as if I'd staged a power play. All I really wanted was my dress. I had designed the lace myself, ferns for resilience, jasmine for hope. My story woven into silk. It wasn't just a dress. It was the one heirloom I had created for myself. The morning of the wedding, I stepped out just for a moment to grab my veil. When I came back, Olivia stood there, holding a tube of cadmium red oil paint. The lace, the silk, destroyed. A slash of red from top to bottom. She looked me dead in the eyes. It was too plain, all that white it needed a little tragedy. And then my mother walked in. For a split second, I thought she'd defend me. But she turned to me and said coldly, "You shouldn't have provoked her. You couldn't just let her have her moment, could you?" That was the true betrayal. Not just the paint, but realizing my mother saw me as the villain in my own story. But I wasn't alone. My maid of honor, Sarah, had witnessed everything. She snapped a photo, took my hand, and said, "We're leaving." Within an hour, she posted the picture with one line. "Due to a malicious act of vandalism, the wedding of Nikita and Robert is cancelled." She wasn't trying to start drama, she was protecting me. But that single post ignited a firestorm, and you won't believe who saw it. His name was Julian Croft, not just an influencer, a cultural force. Millions followed his commentary on design, authenticity, and art. He sent me a message that lace pattern was a work of art. To destroy it is an offense against craftsmanship itself. Do not let this be the final word on your story. Then came the call. His voice was steady, commanding. "Nikita, your wedding wasn't cancelled. It was postponed by an act of jealousy. We are going to give you a new wedding, not as a gift, but as a platform. Creation will triumph over destruction. All you have to do is say yes. And when I hesitated, Robert, my fiancé, took my hand and said, the wedding was never about the dress. It was always about us. So I said yes. The next 3 days were chaos. Julian mobilized his team like a general preparing for war. A designer famous for sculptural gowns offered to create me a new dress, a piece she called an emergency artistic intervention. The venue shifted to the Botanical Conservatory, a glass cathedral of light and plants, the perfect reflection of my work. And as Julian documented every step online, strangers began asking, "Can we attend?" What started as 75 guests ballooned into hundreds. The wedding wasn't just mine anymore. It was a public rally against cruelty. Olivia had wanted to steal my shine. Instead, she'd handed me the sun. Saturday arrived. I slipped into my new gown, less like a dress, more like armor, silk and shimmering thread, resilience sewn into every seam. When I entered the conservatory, hundreds of strangers stood waiting. They weren't family, but they looked at me with warmth, with kindness, with belief. Sarah leaned over and whispered, "Olivia wanted an audience. Looks like she got one." For you, I walked down the aisle, the cameras rolling, live streaming to millions. Robert's eyes never left mine. His vows were steady, mine were full of fire. Not about dresses or drama, but about love that grows its own light. By the time we kissed, our story was trending #1 across the country. News outlets replayed the moment, framing it as a modern fairy tale. The bride whose ruined dress turned into a national celebration of resilience. And my family, silence. There were no apologies, no phone calls. They sat in their perfect living room, watching my wedding on a screen, just like millions of strangers. They had reduced themselves to spectators in my life. Their power over me was gone. Well, it sounds like you found your happily ever after. What about Olivia? Did she get any comeuppance? Well, gave us an update. Our wedding caused a tsunami. Olivia got swept up in it, whether she liked it or not. At first, she tried to ride the wave. She reached out to several journalists, positioning herself as the victim of my vindictiveness. "How dare I make it about myself on my wedding day?" she whined. She begged Julian for an interview, spun a yarn about my bullying her, which he rightly saw through, calling it a transparent attempt at relevance. Then reality hit. No one cared. No one sympathized. She was shunned. All the invitations are SVPs, cancellations. Even our parents stopped returning her calls. She reached out to me, expecting pity, maybe a reconciliation. I didn't pick up. My phone has been turned off since Saturday. No one has heard from her. She hasn't attended either of our events. She's currently living in her car, stealing toiletries from hotel lobbies and begging our parents for money. I don't feel bad for her, but it is kind of amusing. Sometimes the people who hurt you the most can bring you the most strength. Thank you for watching. And if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also hit that subscribe button because I put out new videos every single day.